our panel members to find their seats, and here we are talking about finding leaders. So just imagine how tough it is to kind of get into leadership hiring. And I'm delighted to talk on this topic, to have my very esteemed panel members share the insights, because I think getting the right leader means that you are able to get a person who adds to your culture, who adds to your organization vision, and is able to elevate the game. And I was just speaking to someone a couple of minutes back, and the whole discussion was that how do we answer the why? Why a leader should join an organization, and vice versa, why that organization should hire that particular leader. And that fitment becomes such an essential part of how that contribution of that leadership happens in the firm. So I think today that's the topic. We have some very interesting questions to our panel members who come from very, very diverse experiences. And I really look forward to all of you asking some tough questions to them as well. So thank you. Thank you for this discussion. So maybe I think since this whole topic is around people, it's around progress, and it's around passion. So I think we'll just get started. Maybe with Chandra, you. Leadership decisions impact people first. So in your experience, what do you think are the qualities in a leader that inspire trust and belonging to the teams?
Thank you. It's a fantastic question. I think there's so much we can, Pragati, we can make a huge list of what creates trust. Having set up global teams to be able to lead and run their executive search firm in India, broadly I think I can remember about 4 key aspects. One is the leader's ability to articulate his vision in a way that it is conceived by his team members. It is so underrated. It is very underrated. The leader's ability to be able to articulate in a way the team conceives by his heart. We're not talking about English. We're talking about how are you able to approach. There's a famous introduction I would like to share with this group, which is the first step towards building trust. In my introductions, what is the way, when we go and introduce yourself, you're introduced to a large team that you're going to be leading. I always tell them, I've learned it a hard way. In my current role, the only job I have is to help you succeed in your role. If I'm able to have this created in the mind of my team member, I think that's a start win. Why do I say that? Because when you start off as a leader, they don't look into your soul. Look at what's coming from you, what's your body language. So the first is your ability to articulate your vision. And the second, of course, is how authentic are you? Are you authentic? I think today it's a big term, bring your authentic self to work. We do not want to work with leaders who are not true to what they represent. And I'm not Jesus Christ. Hey, these are the strengths that I bring onto the table. These are the areas that I need your support for me able to complete the vision of the firm for what I am. I think that completes it. 3, consistency is super key. I'd like to give you some examples. I remember there was a day I wrote a note to Ram, one of the ex-boss at Deloitte. Out of the 6 bosses, he was one of them. I wrote an email, hey, I'm down, I'm not feeling great, I'm taking a day off. Generally, what we notice, a reply from that side is approved. There's only one liner that came in, please take care. That's all. And that reassured me, I'm under the right wings. Example 1. Example 2, this is pre-COVID days, when work from home was like big thing, right? You have to draft why you want to work from home, and sometimes there's a guilt associated why you want to work from home. I remember sending an email to Jay, the second boss at the firm. Hey Jay, today I am going to be working from home. 1, 2 reasons. Pragati will be surprised by the response that came back. You don't have to explain to me or tell me where you're working from. I trust you, so please do what is required. That told me that I'm empowered and my way, I can deliver my work in my way. There are multiple examples I can give. Why am I giving these examples? Because trust is not just in financial world, trust is in leadership because it compounds. You show up to a meeting on time, you respect my time. You close the meeting on time, you respect my time. And are you open for my suggestions? It tells me I'm valued. I think there are multiple things. If I have to conclude, clearly ability to articulate your vision. Second is being authentic. Third is consistency. If you're able to keep all three as a bare minimum, all that in a framework of empathy, and keep telling your team, the only job I have is here to help you succeed with no expectations in return. And when your words and your action match, then you are the boss they would die for, and you don't have to worry about your goals because there's the team that's going to run for you. Those are my top four. I feel, how do you win trust as a leader?
Thank you, Chandra. I think so well said. And it makes business sense in my mind. Today, we are all in the business of people. There's no organization which can deny this fact. And trust means the whole aspect about empathetic leadership means that you are able to empower, you are able to align to the changing ways of working which are coming in. I think with the whole AI, data, tech coming in, the worker and workplace, all three are changing. So I think it's so important for us as leaders to bring an empathetic leadership, ensure that people are able to bring in their authentic self. So thank you. And now I think with this, Shweta, maybe a very related question to you. Here we are talking about people. Here we are talking about today's leaders are required to stand up beyond profits. So when you are looking at leadership hiring, and ABP is such a global firm, and of course you would need a person who comes with a very global mindset, then how do you assess whether this candidate is aligned to your organizational purpose, values, which is across geographies, across cultures?
Thank you. Thank you so much, firstly. It's a wonderful questions, knowing the background of hiring that I do. First and foremost is the purpose. Be it any company, what is the purpose driven with that organization? So for me, while I've evaluated a lot of resumes that comes over the hiring process, leadership hiring is a boon and a bane sometimes, right? So it's very, very crucial for me while evaluating to see not just the resume, but beyond that, a leader who thinks, who decides, and thinks about the future associations as well with the organization. So again, it's the alignment of the purpose. And at ABB, we make sure that, it's an energy industry firm for sure. And we make sure that there is an intersection of energy, sustainability, and innovation, which is a purpose-driven organization. We make sure that the leadership quality is imbibed, and that comes up with three ways in how I see in the leadership hiring predominantly. One is I can correlate to, what he said, it's mostly to do with the consistency of the decision, that a leader makes onto how, he evaluates in the decisions that he makes to the organization. Is it for a long-term impact, or is it just the short wins for him? So that is one thing. And second is on the story, the narrative that he comes from. We understand that a lot of people talk, right? But how is it executed? How is the action made? And what is the story of that leader that impacts? Is it a value-added driven purpose? Is it something that really moves and makes it as a purpose to head held belt with that leader, right? So that is something that is really needed these days. A lot of people have perspectives, have their agendas and decision, but when it comes to actual real execution, maybe, that is something that we have to think through. And that happens through the story the leader narrates while we are evaluating them. And third aspect I feel is empathy. In the 9 to 6 rush that we have every day, maybe the empathy is something that lacks beside. So I can relate to him very much, on the values. At ABB we have 4 core values. Okay, it's curiosity, care, collaboration, and consistency. So make sure that, we have an addition of all of these 4 values within the leader, and it is the alignment within the purpose itself. So the story, consistency in the decision, as well as empathy, make sure that a leadership is built, not just in the way how they look or talk, but in the way how they evaluate, they think, they decide, and come up with their own diverse hiring cultures. So through this, I think, it's easy for us to bring up with the purpose, and also the results shows up. Be it 1 month or 2 months, we actually see the results within the leadership hiring. So yes, I think it's a great question, and it's almost the same for me while I evaluate the leaders as well that way. Thank you.
No, Shweta, I think it's so wonderful. And that too, when you said story, right? You never said successes. You never said, the badges. And when you say stories, it means experiences that shape that person. I mean, are there battle scars which the person is showing bravely? Is the person showing his or her vulnerability to the conversation which is coming? And I think beyond that, it's absolutely so much relatable. So maybe Neha, coming to you, and huge congratulations. You're going to be a founder very soon. You're opening up your own business. Can you all give her a clap? I mean, it's not so much job.
The fearful spirit in me needs that clap. Thank you.
No, thank you. So Neha, I think with this, I mean, today's, we were talking some time back, the world is changing so fast. There's so much uncertainty in all that we do. And a sound leadership is where you are taking the decisions that matter, that work. We are in business. So if you have to create your board, what would those progressive leaders look like? Some perspectives, please.
Thank you, Pragati, for asking this. I think, I think I'm going to be changing my narrative basis. I think, all of us were talking behind the scenes over here. And of course, we have all the stalwarts seated over here. So I do not want to probably give any kind of anecdotal, evidential stories that all of us know. Maybe shake up a little, go back to our ancient times. We're talking about leadership, we're talking about progression. I'm sorry, but whenever anything which is quite intuitive and different that comes to me, for some reason I'll always go back to our old scriptures. I'm not such a big fan, and I'm actually announcing it loud, I'm not such a big fan of business and management books. I think our scriptures and Vedas and Puranas, a kind of rich heritage we have, there's so much to learn from there. Progression actually started from there on. And I was actually wondering, I'm telling you, I changed this after having a conversation with all of us. Think of a character from back in ancient times who actually could be a progressive. And one person that came to my mind, or rather one character that came to my mind was Sri Krishna. And I'll tell you why. Because all through my life, I've always been very conflicted with his personality, right? We call him politician, we call him, the person who left his love. Still it is Radhe Krishna, even to date. He changed the ways of the war. We still worship him, and it took me a lot of time on my own inward journey in order to understand why we worship him, and maybe few cents of that I might want to share with you. All right, he never wore a crown, all right? He never ruled Hastinapur, yeah? But he still was the most influential person, not a warrior, a person on the battle of Kurukshetra. You know why? Because he led without power. He didn't have Arjuna's bow. He didn't have Bhim's mace. He didn't have the kind of valor that Bhishma had. But he actually was a progressive leader over there because he held the charioteer's reins, right? For me, that's a progressive leader. Whereas there is influence and direction without authority. He also, kind of innovator that he was, another example, right? He actually principally guided the Pandavas to kind of create a castle in Indraprastha, barren land. Nothing was there. But he actually guided them to do that, forged relationships with people that were like beyond comprehension. He actually taught them how to outthink rather than outmuscle your rivals. For me, that I think is strategy and innovation beyond having a very traditional outlook in terms of how the world should operate. And all of us, like we know him, he was a coach. When Arjuna stood paralyzed, he was frozen on the battle of Kurukshetra. He was the one who guided him and them to go ahead, think about dharma, what is right. Don't we all want somebody who can have our back like that when the chips are falling down for us? We want somebody to just say, before we in fact present our analytics to the boardroom, we want somebody to just stand up and say, you know what, you can do it. Even if the numbers are falling thin, it's okay. You can go and post it. You can talk about it to the board. We all need that. We're humans, man. And lastly, I think something that always conflicted me, like I told you about him, was, he guided all of this while holding the values, also adapting to the realities. Different, right? It is so difficult to hold on to the values while adapting to the realities of life. Damn tight. And also knowing when to bend the rules for the greater good. When the larger things are at stake, how do you go about bending the rules? Not, of course, impacting the people in the negative way, but again for the larger good. So I think for me, that all is progressive leadership. How you can be an influence while holding power, not exercise, all right? How can you be actually an innovator without actually blocking yourself with a very traditional outlook? How can you be a coach who can be a prolific, a profound leader to create and mentor more leaders? Trust me, everybody's a leader in today's world. And I think back in times as well, all of us were leaders. Nobody is bereft of that quality. But how many of us do we have that sense of security to create more leaders on the battlefield, right? And of course, having the smartness and intuitive knowledge to know when to break the rules or bend the rules to create a better ecosystem for our next generation. Alphas are coming, right? We do not know what kind of AI world we are going to be waking up into. Everybody keeps on talking about that. So I think we all need to have that Krishna wake up in us and probably be somebody's Krishna or find our Krishna somewhere. I think that's for me progressive leadership.
No, thank you, Neha. I think it was so phenomenal. When people say that history shows the future, no matter how many frameworks we define, we have to test. And when you have less time to test, follow history. You will find a way. So thanks for that. But I think one very incredible point that you were alluding to is that a progressive leader is not one who gets the best for himself or herself. It's about who finds the best in the people he or she is leading, and of course is able to bring the strengths together, and in weak moments is there as the safety net. So I think a very, very valuable insight for all of us. But in all of this, you said that you're able to bend the rules as well. so maybe I'll go to Naveen on this. We are all looking at some bold leaders who kind of come in. I see organizations saying that we want to break the monotony. We need to bring the outside in. But then, of course, does my culture allow that outside in? How do I safeguard the must-dos? And to what extent do I relax? Because a leader is also, is being watched. People are looking at inspiration. So Naveen, how do you find that balance when you are looking at hiring such bold, unconventional leaders?
So I think I'll go a step back. because some of the organization, what they do is they straight away go identifying a leader, right? So example, if the CEO says that I need a leader for a particular role, so what happens is he's just giving his perspective, but I think we need to step back and figure out the purpose of the leader, right? What is the purpose, what the leader is going to be driving. So once that is clear, the CEO needs to have discussion with the other leaders, so that everything is aligned with respect to what kind of leader is required, everything is in alignment. I think once that is set, then they have to start looking out, identifying for the right leader in the market. And then once that happens, I think a little bit of due diligence needs to be done in terms of what kind of the person is, what kind of leaders he's grown in the past, and then having interaction with all the leaders in the organization. Right. So I understand that everyone comes with their own set of cultures and values, but I think the good organization has certain values which are non-negotiable. So as long as those are fitting, because when you're bringing someone from outside to bring in that unconventional thoughts, right? So you cannot exactly mimic saying that this is same type of person you want. Then there is no diversity of thought. So very important thing is there are certain non-negotiables that has to be evaluated for. Plus the purpose we're talking about. The purpose of the person will be coming in and then serving. So I think this is how you'll be able to identify the right person, and then also a person who's got heart at the right place. Because when you talk about leaders, it's not about something on the technical side. It's just about how do you really grow as an organization. How do you keep the organization loyal to your company? How do you grow more leaders? So I think if you want to really expand, grow, leave a legacy, I think that's how you look at the leaders in the market and then bring them to the organization, and then leadership integration is also very important. So while you bring them on board, but I've seen some of the good organizations, they also start engaging with the leaders even before they bring them on board. So that will also reassure that they are talking to the right person, they are bringing the right person on board. So that gives them confidence. I think this is the way they can really mitigate the risk of getting someone who will become disruptive in the organization, and then it can have a significant impact. So I think that's how I would really look at balancing and getting a right leader.
No, thanks, Naveen. I think a very real response when you said that there are certain must-dos and there are certain things which are not to be broken, but through conversations, through that whole outside-in perspective, there can be conversations around change or around adoption to a newer future. And at the same time, the point that you spoke of collaboration, I think no matter how bold, unconventional an individual can be, the other leader would also come with his own set of personality. So, and then we're talking of authenticity. So here we're not talking of changing what matters to them at the core, but through a collaborative environment, again, can we get the best which takes us forward? So I think that's fantastic. Thanks, Naveen. So maybe on this, Sagar, if I can come to you. I know the past 4 responses have been very thought-provoking. But then is there a science, or we always have to rely on the softer aspects?
For me, it's I come from a company where we have our roots from last 60 to 70 years, and leaders have been so thoughtful. And also we have a new Gen Z folks who have been coming in, right? So what I could connect it to adaptability is something which a leader should be holding it. Why I feel because our most of the talent partners juggling, creating bridging between the leaders and the young folks, right? So wherein we always try to conduct the workshops and try to implement the leaders on the tech front, because that's how people are getting into the shape where ability to influence is what we call it as, and also an empathy note, right? So when it comes to company culture, right? So the combination of a 2 generation. So wherein there was a time we were dependent on the degrees, Fortune 500, 200. But now if you look at, right, so it's all about the impact what we create. People are ready to not ready to look at the 3 minutes video, but they can look into the shots of 30 seconds for 3 minutes or 30 minutes, right? So that's how where we always try to inject the culture of adaptability and ability to influence with the Gen Z. So having said this, right, where it shapes the culture is something delegation is something a leadership should be having, right? It's not about only creating the impact on what they do it, right? It's not you, what somebody. So that's all. Like, if you look at, as she said about the Krishna's example, right? So Krishna didn't execute it; he made Arjuna to execute it. So, however, like, whatever you feel, right? So you will move forward. He made to move forward. That's how the leaders should be also. So those are the things, like, which has been in our roots, right? So this I would feel about what like, the leaders should be having the quality of.
No, thanks, Sagar. It was very well articulated. So what I hear from you is that it's a mix of technical as well as soft skills, and you need to constantly reinvent. But from a framework standpoint, it's always these two dimensions which keep on fueling each other. So maybe Madhu, if I can come to you. Leaders are the face of the organization, and in today's world, and Sagar did mention about Gen Zs, and everyone experiences social media. Information, right, wrong, true. Everyone today has a platform to speak his or her mind. So in such a scenario, to what extent reputation becomes a pillar when you look at leadership hiring, and as well as ensuring that the constant evolution of leadership happens in the organization. So how does coaching around reputation becomes an important pillar? So some thoughts around.
So, firstly, from my background, last 2 decades more with a Big Four, where regulatory and being very, very clear in terms of our ethics and how we operate was the thing that, is really, in our DNA. Very clearly, it is do the right thing, right? Whatever it takes, do the right thing. And, everyone as a leader, right? It's not about person who reached any level will really operate in that. So these two things has been somewhere, in our DNA. And with that, how we do a leadership hiring is also to look at traits which can really be cascading to create more leaders who think like that, who behave in that manner, and also create an ecosystem which can be very clearly seen by our customers, our investors, people that we interact with. Because it's not only about that leader who really comes for a discussion where we hire them. It's about looking at whether it's the right fit for that role. It's beyond a role when it comes to leadership. It's very clearly whether the person really has the right kind of a DNA which matches to the ethos of the firm. And if we really see the examples of the leaders that we really look up to, Mr. Tata, or we look at, Elon Musk, or we can look at, Mr. Nadella. Everyone has, has been, if you see that, everyone would like to look up to such leaders, right, who have a success story of what they do. And why to go beyond, if I talk about my own Azim Premji, the way that he's really contributed to the society by doing the right thing to the right place, right? Right now, currently also the way, the firms operate. It talks volumes of the leadership, and that really promotes the reputation of the firm. It gets more business. It gets the trust from the customers that we deal with. The clients basically believe that if the leader is somebody who is of that repute, the kind of work that we will be producing will be of the equivalent standards. I think it's all about the overall organization which promotes the right kind of a culture and the reputation it holds. It is a big thing where, everyone has to come together to put that. While we do a leadership hiring, we look at somebody who is good in thought leadership, somebody who can really scale up the business, get the kind of scale and size and length and breadth in the business that is required. But at the same time, is the person able to, for the firm, with regards to the legacy of reputation that we want to? Are these the people that they can create more leaders of the organization with the same ethos which, we would like to promote? So one clear example, and it's quite recent, just over the lunch, one of my panel member, Shekhar, just mentioned, right? He's into leadership hiring, and, at that level, what do you expect with leaders to come, right? He's given an offer to somebody, last moment a leader has basically turned down that offer. So what it reflects, if I really have that as a leader for my organization, will that person show up when it is required in front of client? Whether that's the leader that we would like to promote. I think very clearly it is important for a firm and an organization to really look forward for leaders who can talk about the reputation, about the culture, about the ethos of the firm, which clearly is not only at one segment of it, it is also about your individual plus the employees that works with you. How do you deal with them? How you really create the legacy of, the ethics? And also then what do you promote with your clients and your investors? So I think it's a big important factor beyond the role mix and the kind of value proposition one can bring on table. It's about carrying the legacy of reputation of the firm, which is very important for a leader to be there.
Thank you, Madhu. I think such deep thoughts, and what I hear from you is that reputation is not a milestone, not a qualifying criteria. It gets built every day. It restarts every day, and it's all about doing the right things when no one is watching. And when you said Azim Premji and you said Elon Musk in the same breath, these are just so different individuals, but do they stand up for what they are? Yes, the answer is yes. And are they true to their purpose? Are they doing the right things? The answer is yes. So I think it's fantastic. And now with this, maybe Akriti, if I can come to you. We are talking of leaders, but I think a big part of leadership is to also create organizations of the future. If you see today, there's so much conversation around inclusion. It makes business sense if you have a more inclusive team, well entrenched, not only at the top, right, to the lowest level. So, any thoughts would be great.
Yeah, so thank you so much, Pragati, for the question. The question is aligned with the leadership hiring which we do. When organization is doing leadership hiring, 2-3 qualities are very much required when as a CHRO or we will have to hire leadership team. So the first quality is, I can say that it's digital influence. So leaders should be digitally influenced and they can influence to the team member. So that's the first quality which we see when we create a leaders. Second quality, I can say that inclusion is very much important and it's a key factor because when a leader has to listen to the team members and adopt new technologies. Now AI is everywhere in the market, and every person is using chat and all the AI chat box, right? So it's very important that adaptability, by the team member is also a key factor. I can say that. And the third thing, I can say that it's a sustainability is the continued process. So when we introduce as a leader, when we introduce any new ideas, new process, new policies, so only thing is that sustainability is required. That should be the continuous process. It should be not for only 3 months or 6 months. So I can give an example of which we have implemented for the leadership team and to grow our leadership team within our organization. So we have created 3 groups which is extended leadership team, emerging leadership team, and young leaders. So all these 3 groups meet every week or fortnightly, and leaders are discussing on basic to basic problems to the bigger problems, and they try to find out the solution. So that's how in GMR Infotech we have created leadership group which helps apart from their KPIs. They help to other employees and create a very good culture. I can say that. Even the workshop, the webinar and few training and development program we can create for leadership team within our organization so that they can upskill themselves. And when they upskill themselves, definitely they'll learn and teach to their team members. So that's the main thing. Every day we will have to upskill. So by workshop or by webinar, we can create leaders because I believe that leaders create leaders, and the modern leadership is not commanding to the team members. The modern leadership is to connecting to the team members, right? So I believe that. And coming back to the question again, that earlier when we used to hire leaders for the organization, what we used to do is we used to 80% see the skill sets, technical skill set I can say, if we will have to hire tech head, definitely 80% we will have to see technical skill sets. But now scenario is definitely changed. So it's not that only technical things, technical part we will have to see. We will have to see inclusion. We will have to see continuous and sustainability, and definitely digital influence in the leaders.
No, thanks. I think so well said that leadership is a continuous process, and any individual needs to continuously believe and work on creating the next in pipeline, the next, and it means that you need to focus on these aspects on a continuous basis. It's not a one-time activity, which I absolutely agree. So maybe Kamya, coming to you, saving the best for the last. We've heard about so many personas today. We spoke of people-centric leadership. We spoke about purpose-driven. We spoke about progressive, bold, unconventional. But maybe I'll give you a hypothetical question. What if you have these 4 personas? What will be your pick and why?
Thank you. I did have to think about this quite a lot. It's a very thought-provoking question. And I'll ground this into 2 baselines. 2 things that I believe in is that the job of any leader working for a for-profit business is to help the business thrive. It's their job to use their craft and help prosper the business. And the second baseline is that context is very important. The same business over years, over different stages might have a very different context of what will make them thrive. So with those 2 baselines, I was thinking about, how would I optimize one of the 3 personas that you were calling out on people, progress, or purpose. And I think it wired back in my head to say what's the context, and context will probably determine which persona will do the best in that particular context. And I looked at my lived experiences. The first example that came to mind is that Atlassian, where I work with right now, is a very people-driven organization. It's an enterprise SaaS organization. The largest investment that we have as a business is our people. Until our context was able to afford us as a small business, we were very, very people-driven in the sense that we weren't dictating the work that people will do. People were determining the work that they will do, and we were just taking that and selling that to the market. When COVID happened, this team was like a true testimony of how people-centric or people-led this organization was, in how we showed up for the people and how we reimagined our working models and whatnot, right? So very, very clear example of where people-driven leadership across the organization took us to success or prosperity. There was a time in Myntra where, a very different mindset. We were going to take a very bold bet as a business to move from a web commerce business to a mobile-only commerce business. Not mobile commerce additionally, but mobile-only commerce. In hindsight, it was a great decision. We set the template for how e-commerce in India got done. Every other player who wanted to do e-commerce on mobile looked at our playbook, went from there. But that point in time, to imagine that you're going to let go and shut down the revenue stream, which is bringing you 85% of your revenue, and pivot an entire workforce to do something with a razor focus on just developing mobile commerce as the way to do business, was quite unthinkable. And that's where, the purpose became very important. Why were we doing this? We wanted to do this because we truly believed that mobile commerce was the future of e-commerce, and we wanted to be the winner in that market. And it was that purpose that helped all the leaders to understand the why themselves, but also then evangelize and help an entire workforce come on that change curve to say, why is it that we must shed what we've known so far as our templates of success and then embrace something very, very new. We don't know what this will look like. We don't know if anyone has successfully built it so far, but we're going to take the lead and we're going to go build it. So that was in my mind like a true classic thing of where, purpose became so important. And similarly in Myntra, there was another time when, and a lot of other Indian businesses might have experienced it, where GST was a new sort of phenomenon that the Indian businesses were witnessing. So again, as a business where we were selling products online, our tech teams had to stop pretty much everything that they were. Everyone in the tech organization, I would say to an extent of 80% of that workforce, had to start thinking of making our platform conducive to be able to accommodate the GST impact. And at that point in time, I would say it was a survival conversation, right? Whether people liked it or not, it didn't matter. It wasn't our purpose to become GST compliant, but it was pretty much where progress was required to even survive. So that's where progress became so critical. important. So for me, I think a contextual leader will do that delicate dance throughout to say at what stage is my business at, what is it that I need to optimize for, have the agility to pick up like the right signal at the right time and exercise that muscle. It's much easier said than done, but if I'm kind of summing up some of these lived experiences, I feel like that's the, ideal persona that comes to mind, someone who's able to understand the context and do the delicate dance of what's important in which stage.
So what I hear is that you're saying that a leader is someone who has the courage to chart the unknown, and then of course see how he or she can balance between people, purpose, and making those bold choices, which of course need to be under certain boundary conditions. So I think that's something we all strive for. We all need to be. I believe in today's environment of so much uncertainty, ambiguity, as they call a VUCA world. So thanks, and I think we still have a few seconds before we go for a Q&A. So why don't I start with what Kamya concluded. So maybe Madhu, from your side, in a single line, what is ideal leadership for you?
Authentic. Be relatable and authentic. Do the right thing.
Empathy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Adoption.
All right. I think genuine honor and respect for fellow beings.
For me, it's mainly the consistency with the thoughts, and also the statement that says leader creates leaders. So I strongly believe in this.
Fantastic.
For me, it's parenting. I do whatever the actions I do take, the decisions I make. At the end of the day, you are the center, and this is for you and for the goodness of you. So I call it parenting.
Fantastic. What about you, Naveen?
Yeah, I think being authentic.
Wow.